I recently spent 5 days in New York City, and with so much to see and do, I wanted to get the most out of each day. So whether you're a first-time visitor like me or just want to see NYC in a new way, here's everything I did to get the most out of my visit to the Big Apple. But first, if you're new here, I'd love if you'd hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you can see more of my travels in New York, LA, and beyond. Now getting into day one of this New York adventure, our itinerary begins with arriving at JFK Airport, from where we took the 8:50 air train to the New York subway, where I decided to get a week-long MetroCard pass for $35. New York's actually phasing out the MetroCard in favor of Omni contactless payments, but I wanted one as a souvenir. Our hotel is the Aloft in Long Island City, Queens. Just a 10-minute subway ride from Midtown Manhattan and a bit cheaper to stay at than the hotels there. It was very minimalist and modern inside the room, just what we needed for a comfortable place to sleep. For an incredible view to start out the trip, we visited the Lost in Paradise Rooftop, which had delicious cocktails and Latin American fusion bites to accompany an absolutely perfect view of Manhattan. I loved the beef empanadas we got while here, and also watching the traffic on the Queensboro Bridge. Making use of that 7-day MetroCard pass, we took the subway to Times Square, as I thought it'd be really cool to visit at night, and I wasn't wrong. After picking up some pizza in Hell's Kitchen, it was time to rest and prepare for our very busy day 2 schedule. Since it was our first time in New York, we decided to have a day fully dedicated to seeing the main sights. So it was back to Midtown Manhattan using the subway to get to the pickup spot for our NYC sightseeing tour with USA guided tours, right by Times Square. The first leg of the journey winded through Times Square and up through Midtown until we made it to Strawberry Fields in Central Park. This was a really beautiful area that was designed as a tribute to John Lennon. After walking around and taking in the scenery, it was time to head off to more of New York. There was quite a bit of traffic for a United Nations session that was going on while we were there, but eventually we made it to the St. Patrick's Cathedral and the Rockefeller Center. Its Art Deco styling was especially impressive on such a tall tower, with the ice skating rink and location of the giant annual Christmas tree being just below it. While cruising down Fifth Avenue and going by all the fancy shops, we took a brief photo-taking stop near the Empire State Building, which is also next to Manhattan's Koreatown. We'll be revisiting that area on a later day. But for now, we had a quick little photo shoot at the corner of 36th Street and 5th Avenue. From there, it was a long drive to downtown Manhattan and the financial district, passing Canal Street and Chinatown along the way, which we'll be touring more of on a later day. But for now, continued on past Wall Street and the infamous Wall Street Bull, which had super long lines of people waiting to grab a photo and honestly didn't look worthwhile at all. Here at the World Trade Center Mall, there was a small food hall inside for grabbing a quick lunch. This little sandwich spot was alright. The sandwiches were nothing special, but the focus today was on seeing and touring as much as possible. And next up were the 9/11 memorial pools at the foot of the towering and gorgeous One World Trade Center, or Freedom Tower. The pools were so beautiful and a wonderfully designed space to pause for some reflection and remembrance. I also learned about the Sphere, a sculpture that had been recovered from the rubble following 9/11 and placed in Liberty Park across the street from the memorial at the request of the artist, who didn't wish to distract from a space meant to signify absence and encourage reflection. It was a short drive afterwards to the Staten Island Ferry terminal, where we got on a free ferry ride to Staten Island with views of Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the Statue of Liberty along the way, about 20 minutes each way. I loved the views of Freedom Tower and helicopters buzzing over the skyline. We tried our best to get a few good photos. At this point, the tour headed back to Midtown for drop-off, and I was feeling a bit tired, so it was time for a break at the hotel to plan the evening and take a little nap. I ended up making a reservation at Refinery Rooftop while at the hotel. I'd heard that it has an unbeatable view of the Empire State Building, and I was not disappointed. I mean, look at that. Maybe it's just me, but I'd take this over one of the $50 plus observation decks. And here I could enjoy the view with some creative and strong cocktails and yummy bites. We're now in East Village, where we popped into Sake Bar Decibel for some great, although dark to film, vibes and drinks, in addition to a few more bites like these octopus balls. And then one more late night stop after that at the famous Adel's Halal street food cart in Midtown Manhattan for a combo plate under $10.
Wow. Oh yeah. Oh, it's good.
It had started raining by the next morning, and we ended up sleeping in for a bit. But soon enough, it was off to Chinatown and a walk through the Canal Street Market, which has a lot of hagglers with merchandise. Not personally into that, so continued on to the main part of Chinatown itself, and its super cute streets, perfect for taking some aesthetic rainy day photos on. Our first food stops were for boba milk tea and a $6.50 bowl of duck, pork, and rice at Noodletown. From there, we visited Nom Wah Tea Parlor, located in this beautiful alleyway, where we enjoyed some jasmine green tea and dim sum. Super Taste and their hand-pulled noodles was our next foodie stop. I'll have a full video on these Chinatown eats and more out soon, so make sure you're subscribed and don't miss it. Little Italy is on the other side of Canal Street from Chinatown, and I honestly wasn't impressed by how tacky and gimmicky everything there was. Not much looked particularly appealing to try out. We did grab a cheesecake that ended up being alright, but only because we really needed to use their restroom. There's not a lot of public restrooms in New York. Later that night, after some Saturday bar hopping in Hell's Kitchen, we stopped at one of those 24-hour neighborhood delis for a couple of cheap subs. The next day was still a bit rainy, but we decided to make the best of it and try to visit those iconic photo-taking spots in Dumbo, Brooklyn. We used the subway again to get down to that famous picturesque spot in Dumbo with the Manhattan Bridge in the background. After some attempts at taking aesthetic photos there, we walked over to the area by the Brooklyn Bridge for a few more photo shoot attempts. By then we had gotten pretty hungry and popped into Time Out Market. This is a food hall space in Dumbo that's actually really expansive and had great cuisine options from popular spots all over New York. We ended up getting some pasta that really hit the spot. I definitely recommend getting something at this market when in Dumbo. While eating, we had lost track of time a bit and had to rush over to the subway for a 7 p.m. showing of the Book of Mormon Broadway show in Midtown Manhattan. I couldn't film inside, but we made it just in time, and the show was an easy 10 out of 10 in my book. Following the show, a nearby subway station had a bar inside with really tasty cocktails, and we then took a walk over to Manhattan's Koreatown, where we got this fun watermelon soju and a few other bites. But after this was a quick random stop at what turned out to be one of my favorite foodie experiences of the entire trip. A halal street food cart right by our hotel in Long Island City with delicious combo plates. She really lathered mine up in a ton of white sauce. At my request. This was seriously so good, and I forgot to grab more footage.
It's hard to believe it, but it's already our last day here, guys. Of course, this always ends up happening. It's finally sunny on our last day.
We stopped by the Aloft Hotel's rooftop space for some amazing views of the Manhattan skyline. You could also see the subway and other parts of Long Island City from here. I seriously would take this over a crowded observation deck any day. Next up was a visit to Greenwich Village, home of Bleecker Street Pizza and Mama's 2 Pizzeria. We decided to try Mama's 2, which is a pretty popular spot, although it did underwhelm me a little. We also stopped at a cute little street side cafe to enjoy an Aperol Spritz. The vibes really reminded me of nice European cafes. After that, we went over to the nearby Stonewall Inn to check out this landmark of LGBT history. It had a really cute interior with historical information, and they had a happy hour going on. From there, we hopped onto one of those city bikes that they have stations for all over Manhattan and headed over to Central Park. At this point, I realized that we still hadn't gotten a New York bagel, so we quickly grabbed one and then booked it off to the airport. That bagel really hit on the flight back. I hope you enjoyed this overview of my 5-day itinerary to New York City, and let me know if you'd want to see videos like this about Los Angeles or other cities in the future. But remember to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.